We've got magic to do just for you. We've got miracle plays to play. We've got arts to perform, hearts to warm, kings and things to take by storm as we go along our way. That was a song styling from our recent production of Pippin.
Yep, that's exactly what it sounded like.
Yeah. If you missed out on that, I'm so sorry, listeners. I'm so sorry.
That was a taste.
Yes, just a taste. Yes, it was just Miranda and I playing all of the roles just for fun. 2-person Pippin.
Oh yeah.
What a time.
I mean, I think people would pay money to see that. Not many, but...
Yeah, I mean, we might have like an audience member, maybe.
Yeah, we'll just charge like $1,000 a ticket.
Yeah, I'm not seeing an issue with that.
And then if we get one person, that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. It could just fund the whole, whole nother show. It'd be great.
There you go.
Yeah. What a wild time.
Done.
Yeah, so we are, contrary to popular belief, not discussing Pippin today. However, that music was a little hint. A
teaser.
A little teaser for what we are discussing today.
Yep. If you're a puff, lift up your cup. Because you're a puff.
There it is. The pandemic is over.
Kind of.
Or is it?
I don't know.
The pandemic has allowed us to return to the stage, finally, after many, many months. It was, what was that, 12 March? The show was in what, July? It was Puffs? Sorry, we're talking about Puffs. Let me, I don't think we actually said that.
It's on the back of my shirt. I think it was July of 2021.
July of 2021.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything shut down. Godspell didn't happen.
No.
March of 2020. Then we came back. It was July of 2021.
Yes.
So lots of months in between. Like 16 of them. We were counting every second of every minute.
That's crazy to think about.
I know. It's wild to go from like talking about Godspell now and then talking immediately about Puffs, and like the 16 months just went on and on and on, and
Well, and when you think about it too, it's now that we're doing full seasons, the shows feel so much different. I don't know if you've had this experience as well, but like when we were doing one show a year, it was each show felt like I have so many memories from each of those shows, and now that we're doing full seasons, it's just they blend a lot more than I ever thought they would. It just becomes, you become a machine, and you're just like
I think about,
and grooving.
Yeah, for sure. And I think about like, you, Savannah, and I have had this conversation a lot recently of like this summer we are just jam-packed with shows. Shows are happening all the time. And I want to say we had a conversation last week where I brought up the fact that Pippin was in January of this year. And like that felt like a millennia ago. Like it did. So much is happening. So much has happened.
Well, when you think about, the company in like the first 4 years, we did 4 shows.
Yeah.
And now, I think Savannah told me this the other day, technically we have 9 shows this season, which is just
insane amount
crazy
of shows.
to think about. I'm like fighting a yawn right now. It's fitting for what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's an insane amount of shows for 1 year, so. Yeah, just...
I would love to just have us jump right in.
So
to set the scene, and I have so many questions to ask you because as we left off with Godspell, I had taken this step back from the company, like as we were going through the pandemic. When did we have
our Starbucks meeting?
Our Starbucks meeting. I want to say it was pre-pandemic, so it would have been like February of 2020 probably, because I think the conversation, or it might have been earlier than that. It was early 2020 because we had talked about, Godspell was going to be my last show for a while, and like, I just needed like some time to just figure out what was going on. There was a lot of stuff happening in life and all of that good stuff. But yeah, it was like February of 2020.
Okay.
And then I think we talked about during our pandemic episodes, I stayed with the company and with the board through almost like September or October of 2020.
Yeah.
Just navigating through the uncharted territories that were the pandemic. But by the time that Puffs had come around, I mean, I was not involved much at all.
Yeah, that's correct. So that was the first show since Breeze that I basically did without you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I just have to ask to get us into this conversation, when did the idea of Puffs come into your mind? Like, do you remember, like, I mean, was it, like, late 2020? Was it early 2021? And, like, why Puffs?
So I think my dad and I had watched the pro shot of it. I think we watched it, like, during lockdown, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, part of the discussion was we had access to this new space that was the former high school, so we knew we could do a show. But things had really just started returning to normal. Like, you could get the vaccine now, which was very promising, but there was still a lot of uncertainty. So I knew it was a summer slot that we were having, and normally we would put like a big splashy show in the summer spot.
Yeah.
And my thought process was, Puffs has name recognition. You can make the art and the marketing materials in such a way where people understand that it's about Harry Potter. It's like in that world. It wasn't as expensive as a musical, so it wasn't as much of a financial risk, because again, I had no idea like if people were going to be ready to sit in a theater and like what those numbers were going to look like. Also smaller cast, and I believe we only rehearsed this show for 2 months. Normally we try to give ourselves about 3 months to rehearse the show. And this one was a shorter time frame because, again, like, vaccine had just come out. It was very, like, okay, we can do it, but we have to move now type thing. And even our first round of auditions, we did all video auditions. In our first round, we didn't get enough people.
Oh. Yeah,
so,
one of the questions I was going to ask you was what that response was.
Yeah,
like.
We didn't get enough people, and I had to do another round of auditions. And it was kind of funny because in between the first round and the second round, Dakota and I actually went to Universal. So I was like in the Harry Potter area, and I was like, I'm really excited about this show. I hope we get to do it. And then we did get enough people. But yeah, initially it was like logistical reasons, but also I was like, this is a play that I think has potential to do well.
Yeah. I mean, speaking from my experience during that time, like, this was, like, completely uncharted territory as to, like, how theater was supposed to come back.
Right.
Everybody was doing things differently. I remember, like, even in 2020, pre the vaccine coming out, people were doing outdoor shows, and, like, other companies in the area were doing productions outside. People weren't, there was no, like, way to judge how an audience would feel coming back into a space. So, like, hearing you make that comment about picking a show that was, like, it had some name recognition to it, but also being cognizant of the fact that, like, doing a big splashy musical, there's give and takes there, and there's pros to doing that. So I find that really interesting. But I think to myself, I'm like, Broadway, like the pinnacle of our art form hadn't even started doing performances yet at that point. Like, they didn't start until late July, early August. And that was like 1 or 2 shows, and most shows didn't come back until like late September, October. So it's wild to think about. And I remember, we'll talk about this more when we get to the performances themselves, but I remember coming to see Puffs and, like, thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, I'm back in a theater for, like, the first time in a really, really long time. And, like, what is that? Like, what is that experience? What am I, And I remember, like, seeing it, we'll talk more about this, but, like, having that, like, moment of realizing that what I love so much about this art form is that you get to experience with other people.
Oh, yeah.
The same thing all at the same time, and you get to laugh together, and you get to feel emotional together, and it was something that was severely missed. But,
and I want to talk about, like, the business aspect a little bit for a minute, because I know, like, some people are interested in, like, that side.
Yeah, absolutely.
We, at this point in the company, we had just kind of transitioned to the company having its own, like, bank account, its own money. So before that, everything was being funded by me personally. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I would pay myself back when I could, but, like, spoiler alert, you know, Grease, Heathers, Spring Awakening, Legally Blonde, none of them made money. Mm-hmm. None of them. Shows are extremely expensive, especially when you don't have anything on hand. So, like, when we were starting, we didn't have any lumber, we didn't have any costumes, we didn't have any props. Everything had to be purchased. So
it's almost funny that you're saying that as we sit in the garage.
I know, we didn't even acknowledge the space. We should probably do that. We're in the STS
workshop. Yes. So if you're just listening, I highly recommend going and watching the video of this conversation.
At least take a peek at what it looks like. We'll have to do like a video tour situation of it, but now we have resources.
Exactly.
So we had just recently set up a separate account, and, you know, the company was still, like, working to pay me back for my initial investment in those 4 shows that I had mentioned, but we had discussed as a board, we're like, it's important that the company has its own money. So we made that delineation and distinction of, like, what the finances looked like. For context, our summer musicals, we always spend at least $10,000. Mm-hmm. Always. Usually it's more. Mm-hmm. I think Beauty and the Beast was around $14,000. Mm-hmm. Now, some companies, like, that'll vary, you know, depending on what you have to buy and whatever. And, like, we try to reuse as many things as we can.
Exactly.
Puffs was more like $3,000. So a massive, massive difference. And that was, you know, one of the huge reasons, because as a company, we're like, we can't risk $10,000 right now. Like almost all businesses, we were hurting after the pandemic. Like, you build up so much of your audience by producing shows, and we hadn't been able to produce anything. So people, you know, we weren't fresh in people's minds, or at least for most people. And at the time, we actually didn't have to pay for the space we were in, because they were still in contract negotiations with the people who were going to actually purchase the building. Mm-hmm. So it was like the perfect storm of, this show is cheap, it's great, it's a lot of fun, and we don't have to pay for the building right now, so we're going to go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you took the time to kind of highlight that information, because I think a lot of people just assume that it's like, oh, we just do whatever show we want. And, you know, there's, you know, what is it, a couple $100 to pay for the performance rights for a show, and then, you know, you just throw a set together. And there's so much math and so much from a business standpoint that you have to factor into these conversations in order to do these shows. And it was such a precarious time for theater and for any activity that brought together a large group of people. I mean, we hadn't been doing that, and you have to kind of like weigh what society is doing versus what you need to do as a business versus what the product is that you can give to people. And I feel like with Puffs, that was such like a strategic decision that, you know, I don't know the answer to this, but, you know, we'll probably talk about it more. I think it paid off in the end as being a great way to kind of kickstart, you know, shows again. But one of the big questions that I also had for you on the selection of Puffs, before we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of the conversation, this was the first play that the company had ever done. And I don't remember, I mean, I think because the structure was different, but I don't remember us having like earlier conversations, or if we did, I don't remember them, but talking about performing plays and like what that structure would be like for the company. So how did that play into the conversation, like making that ultimate decision to do a play versus, I know you talked about not doing a big budget musical, but there are smaller musicals.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the biggest factors was cost. You also, you know, have to hire a music director if you do a musical. So that's another just added thing there. But also, I wanted something smaller, and there are smaller musicals, but I wanted something smaller that was easier for me to tackle.
Sure.
Especially going into it, like, I knew I was going to be directing it by myself. Like, that wasn't something I had done in a while. And with musicals, there are just so many moving pieces. You have the music, you have the choreography, you have the blocking, it's the tracks, it's just a lot. So I was like, I kind of want to scale it back. Sure. I knew we were doing Little Shop in October.
Spoiler alert, listeners.
Yes.
Little Shop is coming up.
It's coming. So I was kind of like, you know what, this is a great way for me to kind of get my groove back, because I also hadn't done theater in a long time. And I was like, I don't really want to, we talked about it. We talked about some musicals that would be relatively easy to throw together based on what the company had, but...
Do you remember what any of those were?
I remember one was High School Musical. We were legitimately talking about that, because I had basically all the costumes I would need, and I thought it would be relatively easy to put together, but at the end of the day, Puffs, it was what we landed on.
I love the fact that, this, by doing Puffs, it kind of opened the door for, other avenues for theater. And I think just as someone who goes to see a lot of theater, I've definitely seen this shift post-pandemic where people are exploring not only the way that they're telling stories, but, branching out to straight plays or to more dynamic musicals or things like that. Right. So the landscape of the art form has changed, and it just felt like that was a great way to introduce that to this community.
Yeah, I would agree. And now we try to incorporate plays every season, and we have been able to do that since Puffs, but plays don't typically bring in as many tickets, so usually we're the one company in the area that does plays. But for a lot of performers, there are a lot of performers out there that have no interest in being in a musical. So it's been nice getting to work with people that we wouldn't normally get to work with.
Absolutely. Yeah, my love for plays, so
I know.
I love a good play.
We'll get to some of yours.
Yes, I've got some fun ones coming up. But yeah.
Have you only directed one play for the company? I think that might be true.
I think that is true.
Wow, we need to change that.
That's
crazy.
Not without trying to direct more, but just always other things coming up in the seasons and whatnot. But more things are on the horizon. Dream shows are on the horizon. Oh goodness. But yeah, so you mentioned a little bit about auditions and what that was like. So I had no idea that you all did 2 rounds of auditions to find enough people. Was it certain roles that you just couldn't, or you just weren't getting enough people?
I just needed more bodies. Luckily, the people that did come out were great, and I had a great cast. The cast was, it was amazing. But it was one of those things where I was like, I need more people. And I got the people I needed, which was very fortunate. But I think it was a combination of people weren't quite sure if they were ready to get back into theater. People were also a little bit triggered of is this show actually going to happen? Because that was another factor. What if we start getting into rehearsals and everything and the show doesn't happen? I remember weighing the pros and cons of hey, do we have to ask people if they've gotten the vaccine? What does that look like? What do we do if someone gets COVID during the show? All sorts of things.
That'll be a reoccurring theme for the next several shows.
Yeah. We still have in our contracts if you show symptoms, you need to tell us immediately. And it's just, I think we had mentioned this before when we were talking about the pandemic specifically, but it was a very difficult time in our country because there just wasn't a real guidance on what to do. So we were all kind of making it up as we went and doing what we thought was best, but different companies were taking drastically different approaches because there was no hey, here are the steps you need to follow, here are the precautions, whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember as an audience member, especially during those early days, like right after people had, the vaccine had come out and people were starting to go back into larger, like enclosed spaces with a lot of people. It was nice from the standpoint that I feel like most people were on board with maintaining that general understanding of like, okay, we're going to wear a mask, we're going to,
right.
Try and limit the way, any way that we could potentially expose those around us. And I think that was nice because it granted everybody kind of like the opportunity to experience theater or, sporting events was the same way in a safe environment. Regardless, if you weren't feeling well or if you were immune compromised, like everybody just generally had that same understanding of like, okay, we're going into this enclosed space. I can wear a mask. I can do whatever I need to do to help keep others safe. So, I mean, from that standpoint, it was really, really nice. But yeah, I know there was a time there where everybody was doing things differently. People weren't sure of what was the best option. And, it definitely made things more difficult for sure.
Well, and on top of that, there was no guidance from the venue either.
Yeah.
There wasn't like a, hey, your audience members have to be masked or they don't have to. No one said anything.
Yeah.
So I remember getting a lot of emails from patrons just being like, hey, are you making people mask? Like, what does this look like? And we just made it up because we
used the best guidance that we had at our
we did the best we could with the information we had. I think at that time we did have people mask in the theater, or I think we strongly encouraged it, something like that. But yeah, it's difficult when you have your venue saying one thing, other companies saying another thing, the leaders of the country saying another thing. It's like, I'm not qualified to make this decision, but you're asking me to make it.
Right, exactly. And it's, there was no way, I mean, there's still no way, but at that time there was no way to guarantee that, people weren't going to get sick. Or,
right.
We could just, it was
there
best
was
practices.
An inherent risk.
Wherever you went.
Yeah, if you left your house, you were,
Yep.
You were assuming some level of risk.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, do you remember, did you all have like a traditional read-through of the show when you first got everybody together? Like, what was that experience like?
We did, but our read-through was actually virtual.
Oh, okay.
So we had tried to do it over Discord because one of the cast members was very passionate about that. And then it didn't work out, so we ended up doing it over Zoom. But yeah, we did a read-through over Zoom, and then after that we started in-person rehearsals.
What was that process like of being in person for the first time in a rehearsal space? Was it like unsettling, or was it like a welcomed change?
Yeah, it was kind of like mixed emotions. It was like, oh, thank God we're doing this again.
Yeah.
So that was really exciting. The cast was mainly people I had never worked with before. I mean, there were a few people, like Dakota was in the show, and there were a couple other people that I'd worked with before, but it was almost all new. So honestly, that was like a little intimidating because, our first 4 shows, besides Grease, we had a lot of
turnover. Or
not turnover.
People returning.
Yes.
Yes, not turnover. Turnover as in people turning back to us or coming back to us. I'm just redefining the word. It's fine.
Okay.
Yes, people returning back to do multiple shows with us.
So we had a lot of that. So like going to Puffs was mostly new people. I was like, all right. And I was also trying to do this by myself and do a play for the first time. And Puffs was, for those of you who don't know the show, it has to be paced very well.
Oh, yes.
Otherwise,
it is almost
the show,
a farce.
Yeah, it basically is a farce. Otherwise, the show will fall apart. So that was something that I was really pushing, as we were in these rehearsals. But I do remember, my dad ended up coming in, helping with, taking notes and, props and stuff. Abby came in and helped quite a bit as well because going from doing nothing to trying to do everything for a show.
Yeah.
mentally, like, wasn't in that space yet. And I was, like, I felt like I was playing catch-up the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, trying to get all their props, trying to get all their costumes, you know, doing all the
prop
blocking.
heavy show, too.
Prop heavy.
Big prop heavy show.
Yeah. So, like, trying to do that, and I remember every time we would do a run-through, and I would take notes of the pieces that were missing, like the props, and I would star them. The list was just so long. And I remember I would always send out the notes via Slack.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, some of the cast members were just like, hey, that's a really long list. Do you want us to, like, make these signs or do this or do that? And I was like, please, thank the Lord. Like, I was just like, oh my gosh, please, please, please. Like, if you could take that off my plate, that would save me so much.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I was planning a wedding at this time. So
Oh, yeah.
that was another thing.
Not just any wedding.
My wedding.
Your own wedding.
My own wedding. Which, for the record, planning a wedding is significantly easier than planning a show. And that's not even a joke. Now, it was a lot, like, doing that on top of, you know, doing the show. But
yeah.
I felt like it is like it's a performance basically.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
you know, you got all your performers, you got to get all your decorations, it's basically the logistics stuff that I do normally.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's a production.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like it's ceremony performance, like very similar.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was doing that at the same time, and I remember just being like, oh my god, can I do a full season? Like, I'd forgotten the level of work it took to do these productions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It, from the standpoint of, you know, from a cost perspective and from a scale perspective, Puffs is definitely on the smaller end of things.
Yeah.
However, there's so much that goes into it, and I love the comparison between that and, like, planning a wedding, because it just, like, it was definitely a smaller show, but there was so much that had to happen to make that show happen. And it's such a unique show from the standpoint of, like, everyone has wands and everybody has, like, there's magic that goes on, but it's very practical magic. Like, I it's one of my favorite things about that show is that it's so, like, you can see in most productions how whatever the magic is being done, but it's like, oh, that's so clever.
Yep.
So clever. I always think back, probably because we probably still have one around here, but I always think of the Dementors. Just the heads on the stick with the
yeah, they
lights.
actually looked pretty good.
They looked great.
Yeah.
They looked so good, but it's that, like, practical piece of it, and it's part of the storytelling for that show. So I love to hear that the cast was so gung-ho with helping to, you know, create that vision and help make sure that the show happened. But
well, and just, like, a great example of, like, how the work kind of escalates. So, like, you brought up, they all need wands.
yeah.
Alright, easy. Get them all wands. Then you have actors going, Miranda, where do I put my wand when I'm not using it? Mm-hmm. Then we realized everyone needs a wand holster.
Sure. You know, which are easy to come by. I mean,
yeah, because they have to keep their wands on them.
Exactly.
But they can't always be holding them.
Exactly.
So Jen my mom made a bunch of wand holsters. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, that's what you do.
Yeah. We love the theater.
And I remember, too, so Dakota and I didn't have this house at this point. So we didn't have the garage to build stuff. And we weren't able to build at the school yet. So we were building at my parents' house in Waynesboro.
Oh.
We were building in the garage and then lugging it over to Carroll County. It's like an hour and a half or something to get it over there.
I was going to ask about that because it was a pretty nice size set. I mean,
yeah, I mean, we were still, it really was just me and him at that point. Yeah, and we did use a lot of fabric and stuff, but yeah, we had 4 doorways, which for farces you need entrances and exits. Yes. It's like the number one thing. We had 4 doorways. We had all the houses represented. It turned out to be really pretty.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with how the set turned out. We hung, like, candles by, like, fishing lines so it looked like they were floating.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot of work, and going from, like I said, going from nothing to, you know, everything. It was like,
yeah,
oh my gosh,
the whole thing.
How are we gonna make it happen? It was, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
stressful. And then we're getting ready to have Little Shop auditions on top of that. And
Yeah.
yeah, which we'd never done that before. We had never been in a show while we're having auditions for another show. That was a brand new thing.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense, because I don't remember Little Shop auditions, so I must have, I mean, we'll get to that piece of the story, but...
You were there.
I was at audition. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get there.
We will.
I'll have to do some research. I'll have to dig back into the journals and see where I was at that point. But so we talked about, you know, that rehearsal process. How did that, like, did things progress along smoothly with the rehearsal process? Were there any concerns, like COVID or like anything like major that you remember, or were they just...
I mean, for the most part, things were pretty smooth. Like, we were doing run-throughs. I don't remember a big COVID concern. I think we didn't really have that until Godspell, part 2. Which we'll get to. I think we did have some stuff with Little Shop that we'll talk about as well.
Yeah, I remember Godspell part 2, for sure.
Yeah, honestly, this one, no one in the cast got it. I was very aware of the other company in the building and was just kind of like trying to keep my cast separate, just so they weren't exposed to anything going on over there. I don't know if anyone over there got COVID during this time, but they were doing a musical, and it was a much bigger cast, so that just made me a little bit nervous.
Sure.
Because Puffs, I think, was, I want to say 10 people.
Yeah, it's a small cast.
Yeah, not super big, and they probably had like 30. So, really big difference there. I do remember just being aware of it, because we didn't have understudies, and what was really scary is, at the time, if you got it, you had to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I remember hitting the 2-week mark out from the show, and I was like, we're officially at the point where if anyone gets it, we're screwed. Because we didn't have understudies.
Yeah.
So I was very worried about that, but we made it through. And I remember when we made it through the show, which we'll, you know, talk separately about the performances and what that looked like, but just like that feeling of relief of like, we did it and no one got sick. Because there's just so much fear around it. And at that point, I mean, it wasn't as much like, oh, I'm scared, you know, someone is going to die from it, because, you know, we had all had the vaccine, like everyone in the cast did.
Yeah.
It was more so like, I'm scared they're going to get sick and they're going to have to quarantine, and like, I can't let them on stage if they get sick. And that's just like, that was the guidance at the time.
Exactly.
I mean, even when Broadway opened up, they were doing COVID tests before every performance, right? It was every single day you had to go in and get a COVID test.
Yeah, and they were canceling shows left and right. I mean, they didn't even have enough coverage for the number of people they had in their cast.
And we didn't have the resources to do a COVID test every day. I mean, that wasn't going to happen, but it was just like, if you show any symptoms, you can't be here. And symptoms could just be like sore throat, you know, stuffy, like it was...
Headache, backache.
Literally anything. Like, you can't be in this building if you show anything.
Yeah. That just is a whole nother obstacle. And, like, one of my... I say this in jest slightly, but, like, one of my favorite things about theater is that it's so unpredictable. And, like, that in itself, I just remember the stress. I mean, some of those later 2021 shows, the stress of, like, okay, we have to do X, Y, and Z, and also if someone gets sick, what are we going to do, or like what does that look like, and how that impacted that process. So. And
there was a time where I got it, which we'll talk about. But that was during one of the shows, not a performance, but it was during Mamma Mia.
Oh, you got it during the Mamma Mia? Was it the it was during the rehearsal process?
Yep.
It was summer of 22.
22, yeah.
I feel like I remember when you got it, because I got it May of 2022 for the first time, and we had just had Bright Star auditions.
Oh,
And I remember,
I don't know that.
because I think we were supposed to have a rehearsal or something that week, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm out for the count for the next week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, wasn't. I don't think there's a single person that wasn't in some way either didn't know somebody that had it at this point, definitely not,
right.
or someone that was touched by it or impacted by it in some form or fashion. So
yeah, I mean, once things started to open back up, it was inevitable. Mm-hmm. And people knew that, you know. But yeah, I remember being so annoyed because I had just gotten back from a work trip, and then I found out I had it, and I had to take more time away from the show, and I was like, no.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was always the worst too. It's like, you were happy that you weren't you weren't having the worst or extreme symptoms with it, but like at the same time you're like, I just want to be out. Right. I want to be doing things.
When you feel completely fine, and then you're like, but I still have 5 more days that I need to stay in the house.
And early on, I mean, that was the other difficult point, because like early on there was so much like, it felt like guilt for getting it, and like after a while it was like, we're opening up the world, and like you could have gotten it from anybody or whatever, or you just, there were so many emotions that came with getting it.
Oh yeah.
Too, which just.
Yeah, and I mean, we had, like I said, we had never experienced anything like this.
Exactly.
Like our parents had it, grandparents had it. I mean, this was a very extreme case that we all experienced together. But yeah, there was nothing to go off of. No. Like, oh, it's just like, 1812 when that thing happened. There was no historical example that was easily able to be pointed to. Like, this is what we did, and this is how long it'll probably take, or whatever.
No structure there.
No, nothing. And I love structure.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do.
So type A.
You like to plan it out. Plan out the pandemic. It just.
I know. I love a good plan.
So you talked about you had to load the set into the theater. What was that process like? I mean, I know in those early days we were all driving U-Hauls around and going place to place, but like...
So this one was piecemeal, because we, throughout the process, brought set pieces over, so it wasn't like a formal load-in per se.
Mm-hmm. Did you all have access to the stage, for an extended period of time, or was it?
So sometimes we did get to rehearse on the stage. Okay. This was, before that was, not a thing anymore. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we got to rehearse on the stage. Sometimes we were rehearsing in, a classroom, and sometimes we were in the cafeteria. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this was when we still got to rehearse on the stage. Now, the other company, their show was before ours. Mm-hmm. So they moved their set in, this is a solid, 2 or 3 weeks before their show opened. Sure. Mm-hmm. So at that point, I mean, we weren't going on the stage anymore. And then there was we started our tech week the day after they closed their show. So they loaded it out, and then we brought our pieces over. What was nice is we were able to touch up some of the pieces and stuff off to the side by where I'm talking about, all the classrooms, where we ended up putting our costumes and stuff. Mm-hmm. We were able to touch up some of those things while their show was going on, and then when they moved their stuff off, we went ahead and moved it in.
And many of those load-ins where it was show ended, okay, great, let's start moving things in. Yep, many times.
And and we'll get to some fun stories with that, and how the two companies navigated that. But I think something to keep in mind too is we were moving stuff in and out was all we knew. Mm-hmm. We had never had a regular space, so our team was very good at moving things in and out quickly.
Yes.
And we were good at planning for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
This other company that was sharing the space with us, they had never had to do that before. Mm-hmm. They operated out of a building, I think it was a church, for a long time, and they were able to set up early and, kind of tear it down in pieces, at their leisure. So they had never experienced anything like that before. And I remember talking to them, and I was like, we need to get in on Monday.
Yeah.
And they had originally wanted to take like 2 days to take their set down. I was like,
not an option.
No, we can't. We need to get in on Monday. Mm-hmm. We need to have our full tech. And navigating that will continue to be a source of,
a lot of feelings.
Of big feelings. A source of big feelings.
Big feelings, yes.
That we'll talk about. And I think that's one of the things that I continue to bring up that I'm proud of with what STS does. And granted, I hope someday we don't have to do this, but we're good at moving.
Oh, yeah.
We're really good at moving, and we're constantly...
On the clock.
Yes.
Moving on the clock, yes.
We are constantly trying to find ways to make it more efficient, to get more help. We're just constantly moving, and it is at times pretty impressive what we're able to accomplish in like an hour or 2 hours, loading stuff in and out.
Yep.
I am the truck driver of STS.
Yeah.
And I'm always getting U-Hauls. Every time I see a U-Haul and I'm not in a U-Haul, I'm like, ugh, U-Hauls. I think about them, I dream about them, I'm always in them. Mm-hmm. It's not what I prefer to be doing, but it's what I do. So
I will say that falls under other duties as assigned.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I will say, I mean, prior to working with this company, I had never driven a U-Haul before in my life. And, you pick up where you need to help out and you make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The worst one, which we'll get to this, but I rented a 26-foot U-Haul for Beauty and the Beast. Mm-hmm. I had never driven a truck that big before.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. We'll talk about it when we get there, but that was wild. Mm-hmm. That was wild. And I'm like so short, and just getting up into the truck to drive it was a task.
That was the loadout truck, wasn't it? Because we had 2 trucks when we first moved in for that show. It was a big set.
Yes.
Oh, we'll get there.
It was the loadout, and then we didn't even use the full truck. I could have gotten a smaller one because we ended up taking everything apart, so we didn't even need... Oh, man.
Do it every time.
Yeah, but at this time, too, just to kind of, like, set us up for our journey in this venue.
Sure.
We were told we would get a classroom for our costumes. So I started moving in costumes, and they were at my parents' house in Waynesboro, PA. So we would throw a bunch of them in Dakota's truck, drive the truck over, and then we would load them into this classroom. And we actually, the way it was set up, there was a window to the classroom, like by the, kind of close to the front entrance.
Yeah.
So we would have someone go in, open the window, and then we would just throw the costumes in through the window.
Oh, yes.
And there would just be piles of clothes. And we would slowly go through them. And, I mean, we were moving in. We were like, this is it. We're so excited.
Forever home.
Yeah. We're going to be here. This is going to be like a theater staple in the community.
Yeah.
We're here, we're ready, we're excited. And
we are not currently there.
We're not currently there, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
There's a lot to tell about how we got here, but
we'll connect the dots.
We will.
But we'll save that for future episodes.
We will, and we got to talk Puff's performances next time, and also teaser for next episode. My headlight of my car was broken for a long time because of this show, and we'll talk about it next week.
Look forward to that story.
Get ready.
We've got some more fun interviews coming up and some more fun shows, and a lot of our listeners are excited about some of these shows coming up around the corner. So keep listening. We'll get there.
Badgers are great.
Badgers are great.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Stay tuned for more tea.
Yes. Alrighty.
Bye.